How do I become a good parent and wife and still indulge in my interest? 38F, issue for 6 years. I love to cook and bake. I love anything crafty and hands-on, gardening, sewing, crafts, etc. I'm basically a Martha Stewart. If you left me alone for a year, I'd come up with a million things to do to keep me busy. My desire to do these things is what drives me. I get a lot of happiness doing these things and I feel proud that I created something with my own hands. I indulge in these things more than your average mom or wife. As a result, my family takes a back seat and then the guilt builds up inside that I didn't give them enough time. At the end of the day, when I'm lying in bed, I replay the day in my head and cry about how I didn't play with my son. The next day, the same cycle begins again and I do nothing to improve on it. I work a full-time 9-to-5 office job and in the evenings I have my daily cooking/cleanup duties. My husband helps with all of the housework, but by the time we are done with dinner, dishes, etc., it's 8 p.m. and I am so exhausted that I just like to sit and watch TV or be on my phone until it's time to put my son to bed. A good mom would play with her kid, read him books, and make up for the lost time during the day. But I am not a good mom. I sit there on the couch and watch TV. My son's idea of play involves physical activity, hide and seek, cops and robbers, build a fort, etc. But I just don't have the physical stamina to do those. If he wanted to play a board game, puzzle, or something quiet, I would be down, but those things don't interest him. A voice inside me says I should forget how tired I am and just play with him, but I ignore that voice. I sit there on the couch and give myself the mental break. Then I do the nighttime routine and put my son to bed and often fall asleep with him. This leaves zero time for my husband and I. Be a good employee. Give time to your husband. Give time to your kid. Do something for yourself. Like WTF. How do I do all this shit? I have been failing as a mom and husband for the past 6 years. And over that time I've just become numb and only find happiness in the things I'm passionate about. On any given day, I conjure up all the new recipes I want to make and things I want to do. I would love to have my own bakery, but the funny thing is, after 5 hours standing in the kitchen I feel like I ran a marathon. I don't have the physical strength to sustain a business of my own, but in the dream la la land in my head I think I can do everything. I always feel the grass is greener on the other side until I get a reality check and realize it really isn't. Yet the same thoughts cycle through my head over and over. But if I put my passion on the back burner, then I don't feel there is any joy left anymore. I brought my son into this world, as an only child, and I owe it to him to be a sibling, friend, and mom. But why can't I get myself to be those things to him? Why am I putting my own needs ahead of my family's? I don't know if any of you relate to this, but I feel like a loser just typing all this. I don't really have anyone to talk to about this, and when I do talk, I just burst into tears because my body is just bursting with guilt and shame. Too long didn't read. I don't know how to be a mother and wife and still do the things I love like cooking and baking. You have not failed as a wife or mom. You just need to work for a better balance. First point: accept you cannot be everything to everyone. You're a human being, not a god. Try to get your son into cooking or crafting with you. Actually set aside a period of time every week for you and your hubby to just be alone together, aka date night. If your son is old enough, assign him simple cleaning chores. He's going to need to know how to do chores and cook eventually, best to learn early. Also split cleaning with hubby. He should be helping already. Still leave a balanced time for your hobbies for the sake of your mental health. I was struggling with that too. My interest is music. My daughter is 5 and an only child, and for the longest time, I basically quit music because I perceived it as taking time away from the kid. One day a couple of months ago, I said to the kid, Mama is going to practice the piano now, and told her that she'd get an M&M if she let me practice. She did great and played by herself while I practiced. After a few days of that, she started noodling around on the piano herself. Now we are doing full-on piano lessons and she loves it. She's getting really good. So my advice would be to do your thing while the kid is around, with bribery if necessary, and let him see you enjoying it. I bet that you'll have a little kitchen helper in a few days, and even if you don't, your son will internalize the idea that moms have interests and passions of their own too. A good mom is a happy mom. I'm glad I grew up in the 70s and 80s, as an only child, when loving parents also had their own interests and didn't feel pressured to be their kid's sibling and friend. You can pass your love of cooking and baking to your son once he gets a little older. Please don't be hard on yourself. I once read a great article about how Mexican children are initiated into caring for the household and doing chores. The crux of it was you don't dumb down things for them or accommodate them. You start by simply asking them to be involved with whatever task is feasible at their skill level. A kid's desire to be around the family is enough motivation for them to willingly participate in cooking and chores. Most of the time, they get satisfaction from being a participant if it gets started early enough. Children in Japan do just the same thing. They are given cooking and cleaning responsibilities relatively early, and in doing so learn that this is how a household works. Your husband is supposed to help too. You need a morning or afternoon a week to do your thing. Have a weekend day where the morning is spent with dad and the afternoon with mom or so. Each gets solo time this way. And please don't make this baking your work. Part of loving this hobby is that there aren't obligations involved and you have all authority. Clients have demands and are similar needy as your child is. It kills the joy. And perhaps consider to combine your son's hobbies with yours. He can help with baking. Heck, it's time for gingerbread houses again. Your kid will probably love to hide some toys in there too and be involved with the design. The skill and techniques are things he won't forget when he's an adult. There's also, allow your kid to be bored. If you're doing your job as a parent, he knows what the boundaries are. He can be alone for an hour without hurting himself. If he's 6, take a moment in between your cooking to check up on him, and the older he gets, the fewer checkups. Another thing you should look into, you have a certain inner voice and it sounds like that voice is talking you into the negative a lot. That you're failing or aren't a good parent. You're a human, you make mistakes. But if your kid knows you are there for them, that you treat them fairly, support them on the right moments and cheer them on, they'll be fine. You don't have to be his best buddy for that. My mom wants me, 27F, to get rid of my husband's, 33M, dog, because she's afraid the dog will hurt my son. So, 3 years ago I got my husband a dog for his birthday. Technically, it's our dog, but I always refer to the dog as my husband's dog, because there is a really special bond between those two. They're literally best friends. I gave birth 4 months ago and my mom has been stressing me out ever since. She's constantly complaining about things I'm supposedly doing wrong or tries to lecture me on how to entertain my baby, etc. It's so annoying, because she's behaving like she's my son's mother instead of me. A week ago, my husband and I invited my parents to our house for dinner. During this dinner, my son was in his bouncer. He was there with us the whole time, so he wasn't unsupervised. Suddenly, my mom started screaming because the dog got a bit close to my son and started sniffing my son's face. The thing is, this dog wouldn't even harm a fly. Yes, he's a bit scary looking, because he's a big Rottweiler, but he's such a kind and gentle dog. If I believed this dog was dangerous, I would not let him near my son. Unfortunately, my mom completely freaked out. She started yelling at me things like, "How can you let your dog do this to your son? Why are you risking your son's life? You're a bad mother," etc. For the past week she has been calling me and yelling at me to get rid of this dog, because she thinks this dog will hurt my son. I told her I wouldn't do it, because this dog is part of the family and my husband would be devastated if we got rid of his dog, but my mom is insisting on it. I'm not planning on giving this dog away, but currently the relationship between my mom and I is very strained and I don't know what to do about it. Any advice? Too long didn't read. My mom wants me to get rid of my husband's dog, because she's afraid the dog will hurt my son. I'm not going to do that, so now the relationship between my mom and I is strained. The best thing about being your age is that you're an adult and can make your own decisions. You can thank her for her concern, tell her that you will not be getting rid of the dog, and if that bothers her she can stop coming over because you're not willing to discuss it. Your family, your decisions. Period. Yes, I have some advice. Here's what you say. Mom, my husband and I are in charge of this house and this family. I hope you can start respecting us and stop telling us what to do all the time. I want you to be part of our lives, but it's not going to work if you continue this delusion that you are in control of my household. My sympathies. I had this with my mill and there was nothing to do other than let it roll over me, but she didn't live close so it wasn't as bad. I know the advice columns will say you've got to try telling her to stop and trust that she raised you right, establish boundaries. Yes, you do, but it's hard. We did it and still have to do it again. The dog is just the latest, most egregious example. The reason your relationship between you and your mom is strained is this: she's constantly complaining about things I'm supposedly doing wrong or tries to lecture me on how to entertain my baby, etc. It's so annoying, because she's behaving like she's my son's mother instead of me. And that's 100% on your mom. The dog isn't the problem. Act like the adult you ostensibly are and set boundaries with your mother. Make not criticizing you and not fucking screaming at you to be conditions of being welcome in your home and in your life. If my boyfriend does something that upsets me, I somehow still end up comforting him. I've, 25F, been with my boyfriend, 25M, for about 7 months. More often than not, if I try to talk to him about something that he's done or said that makes me sad, angry, upset, etc., the conversation somehow turns to how he feels like a terrible person and how he shouldn't be close to anyone because he just hurts people, etc., and I end up comforting him when we were supposed to be talking about something that made me upset. My boyfriend has a lot of past trauma, poor self-esteem, and other mental health struggles, so I, of course, want to be supportive and not minimize his pain, but I feel like I'm coming to the end of my rope. It can be so frustrating to never get to air out any of the ways that I've been feeling upset when the conversation is always turned back to him. I have no idea how to even bring these feelings up and approach this without sounding like a total jerk. Any advice would really be appreciated. Too long didn't read. Even if I'm the one who is hurt, my boyfriend throws pity parties and I end up having to comfort him. How do I address this? One thing to remember: manipulative behavior isn't always totally done on purpose, but anyone with an ounce of self-awareness has the basic knowledge that X behavior equals X outcome. Understand he knows that these pity parties alleviate the stress on him and enable him to escape any accountability. You need to be direct. I need to be able to discuss this with you. This is a normal couples discussion and I am not passing a character judgment on you. I am simply asking if you can be more aware of this behavior in the future, and I'd appreciate an apology. Can you do that? Simplifying it and then asking a question that requires a yes or no answer is your best bet to stop the pity part before it spirals. Can you acknowledge this behavior/situation? Yes or no? Yes? Great, we are moving on. It means no further comforting. Redirect the conversation as soon as you get that acknowledgement. Rudely interrupted any yes buts. Just say great, thanks, what do you want to do for dinner? You know what the phrase "makes it all about him" means through experience. He gets to use it as a shield and a way to direct positive attention to him. Instead, if he throws a pity party, don't comfort him, start measuring what he's done to you and weigh whether that really makes him a terrible person. But guessing once your pity stops he'll terminate any discussion and switch to anger instead. He's just manipulating you.